At 02:15 a.m. on the Dnipro River, the stakes were set for the war's decisive moment, a 5-mile-long Russian convoy bristling with enough ammunition to resupply 10,000 troops. This was Moscow's bloody bargaining chip, a calculated show of force timed to bully a deal out of Zelensky and Trump during scheduled peace talks in Washington. It was guarded by the best, Pantsir S-1 mobile air defense systems, creating a 12-mile-wide protection bubble backed by the multi-million-dollar Nebo-M radar system, a behemoth that can track a baseball from 200 miles away. They were untouchable. But they were fatally wrong. Clamped silently to the cold, steel girders of the bridge, disguised as rusted maintenance equipment, a fleet of Khajak REBOff FPV drones was sleeping, each cost a mere $600 a pop. For 72 hours, these cheap, disposable platforms had waited for their digital wake-up call. They needed only a single, heavily encrypted data packet to activate their onboard AI. The strategic stakes cannot be overstated. If this 80,000-ton convoy crossed the Dnipro, 10,000 Russian troops would be resupplied, giving Moscow overwhelming diplomatic leverage. If it failed, Russia's entire southern front would run out of ammunition in 72 hours, and their diplomatic power would instantly evaporate. The clock was ticking, and the Ukrainians had set a trap of exquisite cruelty. The final piece of the digital puzzle snapped into place exactly as Ukrainian AI models had predicted. The convoy began to slow down mid-span. Russia's notoriously cheap tires, unable to handle the long journey and the massive loads, were starting to fail, creating a bottleneck right in the kill zone. Miles away, in a hidden command post, a Ukrainian operator watched the massive metal snake slow to a crawl. The target was perfectly positioned, precisely where the intelligence analysis demanded. He took a deep, calculated breath and pressed a single key. At the instant the signal arrived, the transformation began. 12 powerful electromagnetic clamps disengaged simultaneously. The Khajak drones experienced a momentary 1-second freefall before their high-torque brushless motors spun violently to life. The platform stabilized just 3 feet above the river's cold surface. The high-frequency whine of their propellers was completely and effectively masked by the low-frequency, deep-throated rumble of the 80,000-ton convoy directly overhead. On the bridge deck, the lead battalion's radio operator confirmed their vulnerability. Checkpoint Charlie reached. Convoy is 50% across the objective. All systems nominal, no threats detected, he reported. This declaration of safety was the final, tragic irony of the operation. Below him, the 12 drones had already assumed their combat formation, instantly organizing into 3 distinct pre-programmed attack cells. They hugged the waterline, using the bridge's massive concrete pylons as cover, shielding them completely from any potential visual or radar scan originating from the riverbanks. Their flight profile was anything but simple. The onboard AI employed LiDAR to actively map the bridge's understructure in real time. This allowed the AI to make hundreds of micro-adjustments per second, navigating the treacherous maze of steel girders and concrete supports with flawless digital precision. The intricate plan was unfolding exactly as conceived. The only point of failure remained the ultimate unpredictable variable: the human element. The entire mission now hinged on the slim, almost impossible chance that one Russian soldier, bored out of his mind on a 4-hour watch, might glance over the side of the bridge at the precise wrong second. 3:47 a.m. The drones were closing fast. They were just 900 yards from their designated ascent points, still completely invisible to the powerful Nebo-M radar sweeping the sky miles above them. The execution remained perfect, the plan mathematically sound. But inside a cramped Pantsir S-1 command truck, one junior lieutenant noticed a digital aberration, a minor flicker. A tiny bit of digital static that any seasoned operator is trained to ignore 99 times out of 100. Yet, trusting his gut over the prevailing sense of boredom and complacency, the lieutenant made a choice that would change the course of the next minute. He instantly overrode the system's passive sensors and switched his powerful targeting radar to active pulse mode. He flooded the dark expanse beneath the bridge with a focused, high-energy beam of electromagnetic energy. For one split second, the lieutenant's screen lit up like a Christmas tree. He had a perfect, clean target lock. There was no time for procedure, no chance to ask for confirmation or permission from his captain. Driven by instinct and panic, he squeezed the trigger. A 57 E6 missile, a $150,000 piece of complex, sophisticated hardware designed to intercept cruise missiles and aircraft, screamed off its rails. 30 feet below the bridge deck, it slammed into a target. It wasn't a live threat. It was a Ukrainian decoy, a cheap $50 platform that had been silently activated moments before, drawing the fire. The missile vaporized the decoy in a spectacular, brilliant, and strategically useless explosion. The explosion, however useless it was against the target set, did one critical thing: it sounded the alarm. The element of surprise, the crowning glory of the entire operation, was instantly gone. Suddenly, the entire convoy's radio network erupted with a panicked, echoing shout. "Contact! Contact! Explosion under the bridge!" Red lights flashed across consoles inside the 300 vehicles. Truck drivers, jolted by the massive concussion, slammed on their brakes, instantly turning the orderly flow of the convoy into a chaotic, self-inflicted traffic jam, precisely in the middle of the kill zone. The bored soldiers were wide awake. They were terrified. They were stationary. The Ukrainians had drawn first blood with a decoy, but in doing so, they had just woken up a very angry, very confused bear. The new terrifying question was, how do you effectively attack a target that knows you are coming and is now reacting with full defensive protocols? At 03:48 a.m. inside the Pantsir Command Center, the junior lieutenant was a hero, but only for about 3 seconds. Then the single, clean contact he had moments ago vanished entirely. His screen dissolved into a chaotic, unreadable mess of ghost signals, structural reflections from the bridge's rebar, and noise generated by the turbulent water below. He frantically tried to get a second lock, adjusting frequency and gain, but he was aiming at a phantom. This was not a human pilot panicking at the controls. This was an AI executing its pre-programmed counter protocol with flawless digital precision. The 11 remaining Khajak drones instantly changed their flight profile. They executed the classic highly effective beam maneuver, turning their platforms to fly at a perfect 90-degree angle relative to the axis of the Pantsir's radar dish. To grasp the devastating effectiveness of this maneuver, one must think outside the box of traditional targeting. It's analogous to how a police radar gun works. That gun is only capable of measuring speed based on how fast you are moving directly towards it or directly away from it. By flying at a perpendicular angle to the Pantsir's radar, an electronic system specifically designed to filter out stationary objects, the Khajak drones simply disappeared. They became electromagnetically indistinguishable from the background noise, vanishing into the bridge's immense structural clutter. But simple evasion was not enough. The Ukrainians needed to attack, and to attack, they needed to blind their enemy. The drone closest to the paralyzed Pantsir instantly activated its dedicated onboard jammer. This system pumped out a high-energy burst of focused X-band noise, a blinding electronic scream. The effect was immediate and total. The Russian lieutenant's screen went from cluttered static to pure, screaming white. Here is where the Ukrainian AI turned a near disaster into a strategic stroke of genius. Based on intelligence data regarding the poor quality of Russian truck tires and logistical discipline, the system had calculated a 97% probability that the initial missile strike, regardless of target, would cause a total convoy standstill. While the Russians were blind, confused, and jammed, stuck in a self-inflicted traffic jam, the drones did not press the attack. Instead, they used those precious, chaotic seconds to their maximum advantage. They slipped back beneath the safety of the bridge girders, instantly re-establishing their stealth positions, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 03:50 a.m. 70 miles away, orbiting at a stratospheric 30,000 feet, an entirely different kind of beast received the urgent ground alert. This was the Bereev A-50, Russia's massive rotary domed eye in the sky, the airborne warning and control system. If the Pantsir was merely a low-level security guard patrolling the ground with a feeble flashlight, the A-50 was the security director in a centralized control room who had just thrown the switch on the stadium floodlights. Its powerful Shmel-M radar transcended ground clutter. It didn't care about the drone's evasive beam maneuvers. It simply looked down, and through its massive antenna, it saw everything. To its sensors, the drone's tiny high RPM heat signatures and composite bodies stood out against the cold, inert concrete of the bridge like flares ignited in a pitch-dark room. The game had fundamentally changed again. Inside the Pantsir command vehicle, the lieutenant's screen, which had been pure, screaming white static moments ago, suddenly cleared with chilling clarity. A new symbol appeared, a clean, perfect top-down targeting track, fed instantaneously and directly from the A-50's digital data link. The Phantom was back in his crosshairs, painted vividly by an asset he couldn't touch. But the crisis escalated further. The exact same verified data stream was simultaneously piped through secure channels to an S-400 long-range missile battery situated 50 miles away. These sophisticated automated missile systems did not hesitate. They had a confirmed top-tier target track from the A-50. The ultimate threat instantly materialized on the Ukrainian operator's screen. A launch warning flashed. A missile designed specifically to kill supersonic fighter jets and strategic bombers was now hunting a swarm of $600 plastic and carbon fiber drones. The drone's advanced AI was now facing an existential problem it was never fully designed to solve. Its electronic stealth was completely negated. Its jamming was rendered useless against the powerful, focused radar frequency of the A-50. A hypersonic missile closing at extraordinary speed was mere seconds away from impact. The entire mission, the complex intelligence gathering, the multi-million-dollar operational planning, the destruction of the Russian southern front, all depended on a split-second decision from an AI that had just been strategically checkmated. At 03:51 a.m., the S-400 launch warning became a death clock, relentlessly counting down from 5 seconds. The missile was closing at an astonishing speed, estimated at Mach 12. High above on the A-50's radar screen, Russian operators were already celebrating an almost certain confirmed kill. The Khajak AI did not attempt to outrun the missile. That would have been a fool's errand. You cannot outrun physics. Instead, it executed Protocol Omega-7, the preloaded contingency plan designed for this precise worst-case scenario. A small hatch on the drone's underbelly snapped open. From it, a thin but incredibly strong 100-foot-long fiber optic towline unspooled in less than 1 second. At the very end of that line was a device the size of a simple beer can, the ALE-50 towed decoy. The ALE-50 is a brilliant electronic liar. It actively samples the S-400's incoming radar energy. It then broadcasts back a perfect, digitally amplified, and highly convincing electronic echo. It generated a radar signature that was 100 times larger and infinitely more attractive than the $600 drone towing it. To the incoming S-400 missile seeker, a system designed to lock onto the largest, most vibrant radar return, the effect was instantaneous and absolute. The S-400's complex seeker head instantly switched targets. It violently adjusted its flight course, abandoning the drone and chasing the much juicier electronic bait. 3 seconds later, a multi-million-dollar missile, valued at approximately $3 million, detonated harmlessly high over the Dnipro River, obliterating a tiny decoy that cost less than a used car. On the A-50's radar screens, the celebrating Russian operators watched in stunned disbelief. Their ultimate long-range strategic weapon, the S-400, had just been defeated by a reinforced fishing line attached to a radio. The Ukrainians did not just survive the encounter, they weaponized the failure against their enemy. The S-400's massive, high-altitude failure explosion was not merely a blunder, it was a signal. It became a perfectly timed, sky-high beacon that forced every other Russian air defense unit and every bored watchman within a 50-mile radius to look up, mesmerized by the fading fireball in the dark sky. And while every Russian eye was turned heavenward, focusing on the tactical defeat above the clouds, the 11 remaining drones were already climbing. The path to the bridge deck, now choked with a stationary paralyzed convoy, was wide open. The Russian chaos was their perfect cover. The final destructive act was about to commence. At 03:52 a.m., the final irrevocable order flashed across the Ukrainian operator's screen. It wasn't a word or a phrase, it was a single clean data packet: execute. The 11 drones stopped hiding. They rocketed upwards from beneath the bridge structure, their powerful electric motors screaming at maximum RPM. This was no longer a stealth approach, this was a high-speed drag race. Russian soldiers on the bridge finally saw them. They were dark, angry shapes climbing at over 100 miles per hour. The soldiers shouted, they pointed, and some even desperately fired their low-caliber rifles at the targets. But attempting to shoot down a high-speed FPV drone with a rifle from the deck of a massive bridge was a futile, tragic gesture, like trying to shoot down a bullet with a slingshot. The drones did not aim for the soft, vulnerable targets of the trucks or the personnel. They aimed exclusively for the concrete structure directly beneath them. Their internal navigation systems, having survived the jamming in the S-400 attack, were immune to interference and locked onto coordinates with a 3-foot margin of error. The first Khajak slammed into the bridge's main support beam, hitting the concrete precisely beneath the lead ammunition truck. Its shaped-charge warhead, specifically designed for penetrating hardened structures, punched through 2 feet of reinforced concrete in a nanosecond. One after another, the remaining 10 drones followed, striking their pre-assigned targets along the bridge's spine with cold, terrifying mathematical precision. The entire coordinated impact sequence, from first strike to last, took less than 1.3 seconds. And here in the final, brutal seconds, the true diabolical genius of the Ukrainian plan was revealed. The warhead fuses on all 11 drones were deliberately delayed by precisely 1.1 seconds. Why the delay? Because the drones were never intended to be the main weapon of mass destruction. They were simply the highly precise trigger. The primary goal was not to blow a hole in the structure. It was to use the bridge and the river as components of the weapon itself. The space between the surface of the Dnipro River and the bridge deck was transformed into a containment chamber. The detonation of the shaped charges occurring in this confined space turned the explosion from a relatively open-air blast into something exponentially more violent. It is the critical, fundamental difference between lighting a small firecracker in an open field and lighting that same firecracker inside a sealed steel pipe. This amplified shockwave did not merely push the massive bridge, it shattered it. The concrete support columns, enormous structures designed specifically to handle massive vertical weight loads, were instantaneously struck with an unimaginable horizontal force. Its colossal cargo, equivalent to an estimated 1,100 pounds of TNT, ignited a cataclysmic chain reaction that ripped through the rest of the convoy's clustered ammo trucks. Within seconds, the collective 1.1 million pounds of Russian ammunition became Ukraine's own weapon. The fuel tankers, the secondary targets, then ignited in a horrific sequence, sending massive plumes of flame and choking black smoke billowing across a 500-foot stretch of the Dnipro River, sealing the fate of the entire military formation. And so, with an investment of less than $10,000 worth of autonomous drones, Ukraine achieved what conventional air power often fails to do. They did not just destroy a convoy, they vaporized Russia's entire strategic position in the south. So, what do you think? After studying this high-level debriefing, what kind of clever, low-cost trap using asymmetric or autonomous technology would you set to outsmart a lumbering, predictable giant force? Let us know your analysis and strategic plan in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe for more classified intel drops.